Hello everyone, this is Mark Fidelman. I am giving you a quick preview of what my presentation in Copenhagen is going to be like on February 4th through 7th, 2013 in Copenhagen. So this is the big presentation, sneak preview. And I will be available after this session that you're watching now for a quick live chat about my particular topic. So let's get started. SharePoint and Yammer, they're coming together, and they're coming together in a big way. And some of the announcements have been kind of light. They really haven't shared a lot about what's going on with SharePoint and Yammer. I do know some more things that I can't talk about, but I am willing to share with you some things today, and perhaps by the time the conference rolls around in February, I could share a lot more. But one thing I will tell you right off the bat, that these two products appear to be coming together, and they're going to do so in a very big way. One of the things that you might not caught if you attended like I did in Las Vegas is that SharePoint and Yammer are going to be in most of the Office products now. So that you're going to see a running activity stream within Word, within Outlook, within all the Office products that are directly linked to content on SharePoint. So that's important. It's almost going to force people to become social, at least with the tools that they're using from Microsoft. And a lot of people, you know, as you know today, aren't social externally, much less social internally. But these tools are going to kind of force them to become social internally as well. So that's kind of a big takeaway from Las Vegas, that SharePoint and Yammer coming together in a big way. There's also going to be activity streams and feeds in all the products. And you'll begin to see SharePoint and Yammer integrated into other areas within the enterprise. Specifically, Microsoft talked about Dynamics. You know, the CRM, you could see ERP, you could see a lot of integration points where having a social stream or activity stream makes sense, but also being able to bring content in context into each of these applications, I think is very important as well. So who am I? Again, Mark Fidelman. I write for Forbes. I just published a book called Socialized that talks about a lot of what we're going to talk about during my presentation. I did over 10,000 hours of research, 3 years of experience of actually doing this myself. I talk a lot about using SharePoint and Yammer, and I've used SharePoint and Yammer pretty extensively. I've worked for companies that have promoted products on SharePoint. So for me, you know, the big takeaway from my presentation in Copenhagen is what I call the digital village, meaning it kind of takes the digital village to create what I term a social business. So what to me is a social business, and what does a digital village have anything to do with it? So if you think back a few hundred years ago, the digital village really was, or just the village, sorry, it wasn't digital back then. The village itself was really where people got together, they congregated, they exchanged goods at different stores or markets or locations. They were much more friendly. They were into everyone's business. Now that may or may not be, you know, something that you wanted to see today. But the point is that the community felt closer, and I think that's the big takeaway, is that the community, there was a sense of community in each of these villages hundreds of years ago. Now, the living conditions weren't as great, but they did have a shared sense of responsibility. So when somebody was injured, or somebody was hurt, or somebody was down on their luck, people came to the rescue. Also with business, people knew where to find the experts. People knew who was responsible for what, and who could get something done. So that's when I talk about recreating this in digital form. That for me is kind of what we can do with SharePoint and Yammer. Really, these products come together and create what I kind of term the digital village. And especially with large organizations, it's very hard today to find the experts in a particular company. It's very hard to share information with one another in a company. It's all siloed. It's spread out all over the place. It's hard to find. But if you create what I term this digital village, all of a sudden the company feels smaller. because it is smaller, because technology, specifically SharePoint and Yammer, is bringing it all together in one spot that you can go to. And that's what I kind of term your digital village. Experts are easier to find, information's easier to get, you can ask questions, you get quick responses, you build up a reputation on these on the SharePoint Yammer site, your digital village. So this is, kind of what we're going to talk about during my presentation, is how you create one, how you build one, and some of the benefits of doing so. And it's also kind of a work in progress. I think even Microsoft would admit they're still trying to figure out how to bring Yammer and SharePoint together to kind of recreate this experience of what I term a digital village, and they'll term it something else, probably a social platform. But for me, I like to draw analogies to what we're really creating to make the connection easier for people to understand. And I really feel passionate about this subject, that we have to create this digital village to make the community, or in most cases businesses, people in those businesses, feel closer. Especially now when you've got people spread out around the globe in businesses. You got different languages, you have all sorts of issues in terms of time zones, but I really believe the digital village and recreating this village online on SharePoint and Yammer really could bring the company closer together. People feel closer together, and all the statistics that I've run show that people feel closer to the organization and are more emotionally connected to the organization. And I think that's really important. In fact, some of you may or may not have heard of Isaac Getz, but in 2012 he gave a very inspiring, almost thought-provoking TEDx talk on the new workforce. And during this TEDx talk, Getz cites the research he and his team conducted over 5 years. And during this research, it involved a lot of social business principles, but it didn't involve the technology. And what he found was that there were a certain number of people within the organization that he termed roosters. And roosters are people that are just emotionally connected with the organization, would sing its praises every chance they got. And these are the people that you really want in the organization. And what he found out during his research is only about 27% of people within the average organization were what he termed roosters, or big boosters of the organization. And shockingly, and kind of unfortunately, only 59% of the next group of people, what he called tired dogs, were really just not engaged. I mean, they worked at the organization, they checked in, they checked out, but they weren't really committed to the organization. They weren't harming the organization, but they weren't really committed or passionate about it as well. I mean, it's a shocking number, 59%. I think you agree. And then, kind of most alarmingly, almost 14% of employees are actively disengaged. Getz calls these people foxes. And these are people that are actually harming the organization, whether they're not finishing tasks, whether they just don't care, whether they're talking to customers in a negative way on purpose. And so for most companies, or the average company, where 14% of the people are foxes, that's quite a large number, especially in organizations that have 1,000 employees or more. Imagine if these people are customer facing. I mean, that's not something any of us would want. So, all that said, we really need to reinvent the workplace. And I think, as a quick preview here, I'm going to show you how to do that using Yammer and SharePoint as kind of the foundation for reinventing this workplace. And I'm going to show you specific examples of companies that have done it and done it well, and the results of those companies. And I think you'd be surprised who's actually on my list. There are many more, but I pick out 3 specifically that I've dealt with and I've had a personal introduction to, and I've witnessed what they've done. So that's kind of the introduction to my talk. I hope you'll join me, and I'll be available right after this video to answer some of the questions you might have about my presentation. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this preview session. You can now use your login information to join a live chat with the speaker. The full session will be presented at the European SharePoint Conference in Copenhagen on the 4th to the 7th of February 2013. I hope you can join us there. Visit our website for the full lineup of amazing conference speakers and to avail of our discounted early booking price of only €895, which ends on the 30th of November. Remember to join the conversation today using our Twitter hashtag for the conference, ESPC13. Thank you.